Life can be so full of obstacles and challenges that sometimes seem insurmountable. Today, we will be talking about happiness as a choice. Our guest is Matt O'Neill, who has positively impacted the lives of over 100,000 people worldwide. As a recognized leader in happiness education, Matt teaches audiences how to live a life of conscious happiness. His work includes the Good Mood Revolution book and podcast, where he explains the importance of conquering negative thought patterns while embracing habits that lead to a happier life. Welcome to our show, Matt.
Reno, I am so thrilled to be on this podcast. I just love the work you're doing and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Matt, how would you define happiness?
Happiness is presence. In the absence of negative emotions, this present moment is filled with incredible joy. When we're not resisting it, when we are loving this moment exactly as it is, we are feeling this gratitude for being here, this gratitude for being who we are and with who we're with, and just the chance to be alive. That feeling, we all feel it. Everyone knows what it feels like to be happy. But when we stop and think about what is happiness, you think about the days you're the most happy. Maybe it's the day I was married. I was just thrilled that Katie was going to say yes. Or the day that my children were born. I was just so happy that they came into the world successfully and I was going to be this father to them. But in those moments when we're our happiest, we just love life how it is. So this is why happiness is a choice, because at any moment we can come into presence and choose to love exactly what's happening in life as it is, and happiness returns.
I think so much pain and suffering is caused by perception, being either in the past or the future and losing sight of all those blessings we already have.
Yes. Reno, you nailed it. That's it. The absence of happiness is the mind. And the mind or the ego, however we want to define it, loves to think about the past and how we've been harmed and things shouldn't be the way that they are and that shouldn't have happened and they shouldn't have said that. Or the mind loves to worry about the future and say, well, I need that. I want that. If I had that, then I'd be happy. Or that shouldn't happen and I don't want that to happen. And so the mind goes into preoccupation with a future that hasn't happened, either something we want and we don't feel adequate now, or something we don't want and we're worried that it'll happen. Or the mind has a preoccupation with the past and says, this shouldn't have happened to me. That person shouldn't be that way. But all of this is just resisting this delicious, incredible, magical present moment. And when we connect with it and we just love it, and we're like, oh, I just love life right now. This present moment is magical. Thank you. Then we're happy.
I just thought about the other day when a person is in great physical pain and on the at the end of life, they would probably give everything for a moment like you and me are having at the moment.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I read this book called Tuesdays with Morrie.
Fantastic book, yes.
Oh, and I actually became very good friends with Morrie's son, Rob. And because I loved the book and somehow, you know, how magical the world is, Rob and I connected and became good friends. And he came to Charleston and we spent some time together. And I had a chance to ask Rob about his dad. There's a part in that book. Morrie is, of course, dying of a muscular disease that's taking all of his abilities from him. He eventually cannot walk. He can't move himself. He needs people to care for him all the time. Only his mind is left as his body atrophies. And he's laying on the couch And of course, this can't feel good for all your muscles to be stopping. But he's lying on the couch and he looks out of his window and he sees this oak tree that had been there for his whole life. And he's filled with so much joy looking at the sun shining through the leaves of this oak tree and taking in the magnificence of this tree. He's at the end of his life, and yet he connected to presence and said, "Thank you for me being able to see this oak tree today."
Hmm.
And he was happy.
You just touched on such an important point because happiness seems to be from another dimension. It's not the things we attach so much meaning to.
No, it's not attachment at all. In fact, attachment attachment is the opposite of happiness. If Maury had been attached to having a body that worked right, he wouldn't have been happy looking at that tree. It's detachment.
Mhm.
It's total surrender and total acceptance of this moment, and then love. I love that you said it's from another dimension. I agree. When we emanate, embrace, and feel full of love, and I think love is the fabric of the universe. I think it's what God is. I think it's what we are at our core. When we are filled with that divine love and we just want to share it and feel it and receive it, that is joy, just bursting with joy. Well, what gets in the way? And this is what I teach. There are 8 negative moods, 8 primary negative emotions that we can believe at any moment. And we have sometimes very valid reasons for thinking we should believe these 8 negative emotions. But anytime we're lost in one of these 8 negative emotions, which has its own world, it's got its own world. Like if we get lost in the emotion of sadness, sadness has its own world, its own way of seeing the world. It thinks a certain way, it acts a certain way, it wants to hide in a certain way. When we get lost in that world, we no longer can access the love that is ever present.
Let's touch on those points because those are good issues you obviously touch on in your new book called Good Mood Revolution, which is out later this year, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's available for order on Amazon now, and I am so excited about teaching people this. Of course, get the book if you want to dive into it, but I'm an open book at any moment. I wrote this book to help people stop suffering because I've suffered. Man, Reno, any bad mood anyone can experience, I have experienced in the most deep, dark, destructive ways. and and I had to. It took me 4 years to write this book. And as I'm writing each of these 8 destructive thought patterns, I had to experience them in their own profound way, in a real experiential way, to identify with the person who is going to read that, and then also to teach the way out of that thought pattern from an experience, not from a higher than thou, I know more than you situation, but from a I've been in the depths and I know how to crawl out too, and you can follow
Yeah.
me.
Yes, because being in pain, being in suffering is just part of life. We have those moments. We
Mhm.
human beings. We lose loved ones. We go
Oh,
through illness. We lose a job or we go through financial straits. But getting out of it and changing a negative thought pattern, that I think is what so many people find difficult.
I think what you just described is the most difficult part. Losing the loved one. That is the most difficult part. And sitting with that loss, with the pain, it's natural. We lose a loved one and our hearts are broken. You said it is our inheritance for being human. Maybe not those words, but that's how I heard it. It is. We can we cannot experience profound love for another one without the other side of that coin, that the more we love them, the more our heart will ache when we lose them. So loss just tells us how much we love. And we don't want to stay there forever. So in a way, that pain that we have when we experience loss tells us how much we love. But there is a way we can learn to grieve with gratitude. Anyone who's lost someone they care about comes to this at some point in time. How fast do we get to grieving with gratitude? That's unique to all of us. But what I teach is how to grieve with gratitude. Here's the foundational aspect of this. That person we lost, they were never owed to us to a day with them.
Mm.
We were gifted that time. The time was a gift. It was a divine gift. And when we come to that realization that, oh, I've lost them and my heart is aching, and yet at the same time, I'm recognizing that the years I got were a beautiful gift. I wasn't entitled to, I wasn't owed, but I got as a gift to experience. And I am so grateful for those years as my heart is broken at the loss. That is how we heal.
Life is impermanent, and we just touched upon the issue of attachment earlier on, and being in the present moment and being in the realization that this precious moment is never permanent.
It's not. And, I used to think that attachment was wrong. And I've learned that attachment is beautiful. Of course, I'm attached to my wife. Of course, I'm attached to my children. Of course, I want them to continue to be here. And knowing what you just said to be true, that nothing is permanent, that they will not live forever, neither will I, allows me to get into profound gratitude for today. It goes back to happiness. Oh my gosh, because loss is available to all of us at any day, today I'm going to be so present in their beautiful essence. I'm just going to love them and appreciate them exactly as they are. I'm going to love this moment exactly as it is because I just want to soak it all in. I'm attached to how much I love it. And I'm happy today.
Yeah.
Not wishing it was different, not wishing my daughter would act different, not wishing my wife was different, that my life was different, that my career was different, just loving how amazing today is. Oh, joy, how happy.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be cooler. It could be 40 degrees in Sevilla, Spain.
Yeah.
And I could say, oh, I love today in
Yeah.
Sevilla,
Yeah.
Spain.
Yeah. I have a great teacher in this respect. It's my dog, Clara. She's a Dalmatian, and she's 13 years old now. But seeing my dog play and seeing my dog run on the beach in pure joy fills my heart with joy as well. We can learn so much from animals. They aren't in the head mind. They are absolutely present. I don't know if animals even know the past or the future.
I think a dog has a certain amount of consciousness for sure. We have two dogs. I love them. Dogs are the best teachers of happiness. Every day I walk in the door, my dog Lucky, he is so excited. He cannot contain himself. He's like, "You are here." And I'm like, "I am here, and so are
Exactly.
you."
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
this like joyous moment where the two of us are just so happy to be reunited after 4 hours of being separated. It's beautiful. But I do think a dog has some degree of consciousness and has some memory. My dog knows what it's like to go to the park. All I have to do is say the word park. And out of all the other words, his ear perks up and he says, "Oh, I know the park. I've been there in the past.
yeah.
I'd like to go there in the future." So there is some degree of consciousness with the dog. We're not dogs, though. We are far more complex, and our understanding of the past and our understanding of the future is a really cool gift because of our ability to go into the past and analyze it and our ability to create our future. We really are extraordinary.
Hmm.
And it's that same gift, that same skill that can derail the happiness that the dog experiences. But what this is the coolest part about it. It is just a journey for us. Our journey is to understand how to use the past as a tool to help us and how to use the future as a tool to guide us, and then how to come back into the joy that the dog is experiencing and that we also can experience. That's our job. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. I think we are so caught up often in our intellect. The intellect likes to define it or categorize into concepts, and that is the trap.
I agree. But the intellect is so cool. It's so beautiful too.
Yeah.
Because of the intellect, Reno, you're in Spain and I'm in the US, and we are looking at each other face to face, having a conversation we could have never dreamed of having just 50 years ago. But yet here we are having this conversation. And so the intellect brings us many things. It's just not where it's almost, so this is another way of saying it. The intellect is a tool. We are not the intellect, though. We are an eternal being that can use the tool of the mind, but we don't want to be lost in that tool of the mind. The tool of the mind, like we don't go to a hammer and say, hammer, make me happy.
Let's talk about the pain of victimhood, which is so much in the collective consciousness at the moment.
The first thing I want to say about this is that I feel the pain of being a victim. And I know what it's like to be a victim. As a young boy, I was the victim of severe emotional abuse from my father. And as a young boy, I couldn't protect myself, and I actually needed him to take care of me, or else I would have died, right? This is how it is when we're young. And then when I grew up, the pain of being that victim, then I internalized and I said, there's something wrong with me. If God didn't give me a father to protect me and guide me and care for me, then I must be flawed. There must be something wrong with me. And so then hating myself, I then was a victim to everything as an adult. So 18-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-old, I had so much self-rejection that I would go into relationships and beg them to reject me with awful behavior. And then they would reject me and I would feel like a victim. And I would say, they're so mean. They're so cruel. It's not my fault. They're doing this thing to me. But I didn't know it was a subconscious programming that was attracting my behavior to then ask them to reject me and hurt me. But I loved to play the role of the victim at that point. This is how it happens. This is why we all of us experienced some moment in time when we were children where we were victims. We internalized it to say there's something wrong with me. And then we grow up as adult with a root program of I'm unlovable, or I deserve rejection, or I deserve punishment, whatever this root program belief is. And maybe it's all of them. For me, it was all of them. And then we ask the world to prove it back to us. And when the world does, we say, I'm a victim. Look at how awful it is for me. There is no happiness playing the role of the victim. We cannot. We cannot both be happy and be a victim at the same time. It doesn't work like that. So happiness comes from choosing full and absolute accountability and responsibility for every single circumstance, person, situation, your fault or not. It is saying, I am fully responsible and accountable for this situation and for making the most of this situation. And I will not point the finger and I will not say it's their fault. As soon as I point it away from me at someone else, I say, you're the problem. And I say, you fix it. So I'm helpless and I suffer. I'm sitting here suffering. I can't do anything for myself because it's not my problem. It's their problem. They need to fix it. I'll just sit here and wallow in my suffering until they fix it. Well, here's the reality. They don't care about you. You care about you. So if you want a lovely, beautiful life, you stop pointing the finger. This is my story. I said, I will never, ever, ever again say I am a victim or feel like a victim. I will always, I was maybe 32, 33, somewhere in there. I made a decision that no matter what happened, I would take full accountability and full responsibility for making my life the best it could be. And I knew it was 100% up to me, regardless of who did what or what happened or what situation it was. And once I made that choice, happiness was then truly available in all circumstances.
There we have it. Happiness is a choice. Taking full responsibility is a choice. But being programmed into certain behavior can become addictive. We have this particular image of ourselves, especially when we go into victimhood, because then we have all the attention because we're telling the world we suffer, we need help, and we need assistance.
And I love what you said, that there's these rewards we get for playing the victim. I talk about this in my book, actually. There's many of them, but all of them pale in comparison to the gifts that come from taking 100% responsibility. Maybe the rewards for being a victim feel like they're easier in the short run. Like, oh, I'll tell everyone how awful I have it, and then they'll give me love and pity, and they'll give me comfort. And then I'll tell myself how awful it is, and I'll give myself comfort, and maybe I'll eat a tub of ice cream or drink alcohol until I black out and just comfort myself with some of these comforts. And in the short run, maybe that feels better. But in the long run, it's always worse. In the long run, the hard choice today to say, okay, this situation I'm in, it isn't good. And yet if it's going to be better, it's up to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what am I going to do today
Mm.
constructively to make my life better? And it might take some freaking hard work. Maybe I got to go hire a coach that's going to work on deep-seated emotions that I don't want to touch. And that's going to be some hard emotional work. Maybe I'm going to have to go and learn some new skills that'll take a tremendous amount of effort. And I might have to try and fail and look bad as I'm growing new skills. And that's going to take a lot of work. Maybe I'm actually going to have to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to have to do some real work and, earn some money or go find a new mate or whatever it is that is going to improve my situation. And that's going to take work. However, in the long run, happiness will happen in a very consistent way when we choose this hard work of responsibility over the easy path of victimhood.
Absolutely. If I look at my own life, there was a process where I had a lot of pain when I was in a job that was no longer fulfilling, and when I had relationships that weren't very happy relationships. And it took a lot of pain first to transmute that pain and to move forward. And I think there is at some point a threshold where the soul says, now this is enough. I have to change. I have to do something different.
For you, you listen to that pain. This is the beautiful thing about pain. Pain is our teacher. And you listened and you said, enough is enough. Not everyone does. Some people will wallow in pain for this entire lifetime. Hopefully, this conversation that we're having today has somebody say, enough is enough. I do not want the pain of victim choices any longer. And today, I'm going to take full responsibility. I'll share a story. I just got back from an energy healer. She found 3 different blocks in my energy system over physical trauma. We were T-boned in a car accident a month ago, and the person driving just blew through a stop sign at maybe 40 miles an hour and hit us so hard that my SUV went up on 2 wheels. We almost flipped over sideways. That's how hard the impact of this driver was. In that situation, she blew through a stop sign. It was coming from around a corner. I couldn't see that she wasn't going to stop. I tried to swerve out of the way. You could say I was a victim. And yet choosing to feel like a victim of that situation will never serve me. So there's myself, my wife, and two good friends. We were going to dinner. My buddy sitting next to me in the passenger seat immediately, as we're on two wheels, says to his wife, "Are you okay?" And I thought, in the moment of trauma, his mind immediately went to, "How is my wife?" That was a really amazing experience. I did not immediately say to Katie, "Are you okay?" I'm like trying to maneuver the car and land us straight, and my mind was more on like, how do I get us safely out of the situation than immediately my wife. But I thought that was very cool. My buddy said that. We we land our car. It's it's mangled. The front end of her car is landing in the street. I check everyone. How is everyone? Everyone's okay. Necks are sore, backs are sore, but everyone's okay, right? Gratitude. Oh God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This could have been so much worse. Thank you for sparing us. We go to the other car. She's okay. Her daughter's in the front seat. She's okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you that everyone is okay. And yet, here I am. I've got emotional blocks from this physical trauma that happened to me that I didn't, maybe I created it. I don't know. The law of attraction is kind of weird. Maybe I've attracted this situation to me. If I did, I don't know how. Sometimes it's a big world with 7 billion people that all have free will and they do their own thing. And sometimes some of them bump into you. And here, today the rental car agency calls and says, "We're no longer going to pay for your rental car." I have 4 kids.
Mm.
I have a career. I need to get
Mm.
around.
Yeah.
And I'm reaching out to the people who are supposed to be fixing the car and they're not getting back to me. So I don't have this rental car. I don't have my car. All of this inconvenience has happened from possibly me saying I've been a victim to this situation. And I'm telling you this story. It's a very fresh story because I just was dealing with it at the energy healer. Again, to say, I will never choose to feel like a victim. Never. So now let me just go back into these few details. The rental car agency says, "Hey, we'll no longer pay for your rental car." I said, "Can I rent it from you? Can I pay to rent it from you?" They said, "Oh, of course." I said, "Great. Let me do that." So I'm not a victim. I'm responsible for procuring a car to continue to live my life and get to work and get my kids to work. Great. So taking responsibility there immediately without the victim drama of, "You should pay for this car and this wasn't my fault," and the whole story that could go with that. All that would do is just derail my mood and take me down into levels of victimhood frequency that then would create a really ugly life for me. It wouldn't be a happy life. But immediately I say, "Well, what's the solution here? What can I do?" They say, "Well, you can just pay." And I said, "I'll just pay." Great. This is one of my things is that if a problem can be solved with money and you have the money, you do not have a problem.
Someone on my walks on the Camino said to me, "There's a big difference between difficulties and problems, and most of the time we're just dealing with difficulties."
Inconveniences.
Exactly.
That I
Yeah.
don't have the car.
Yeah.
It's inconvenient that I have to pay for the rental. It's inconvenient that the repair shop won't get back with me.
But the gratitude is there was an accident, but you're all alive and healthy.
And this is, you've nailed it. It goes back to gratitude. We started this episode by saying happiness is a choice, and the choice is, am I totally in awe at the blessedness of this moment? Or am I saying this moment shouldn't be the way it is? It should be better, or this shouldn't have happened. Am I resisting something about it? I know the truth. When I am just in awe of gratitude about how magnificent this moment is, I am so happy. And when I resist it, I am not. So yeah, I did not resist the rental car agency. There's a trigger. The trigger says, "This doesn't seem fair." And then immediately me say, this is not a battle for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not, I will not stake my happiness on this battle. What is the fastest solution to keeping me happy? And so, a lot of times we're like so focused on money. oh, now I have to pay for the rental car and I need every dollar that I can get. Well, no, you don't. What do we really want money for? We want money for security. But why do we want security? We want to be happy. So we use our money to buy happiness. I just made a decision today to just buy my happiness immediately, saying, can I just pay for this rental car and not argue about it? And as soon as he said yes, and I said, that is fantastic. Immediately, I bought my happiness in that moment. And we all have this choice.
Exactly. You made the choice to stay in the higher vibrational energy instead of fighting a battle that would have cost you a lot of energy.
Yeah, and then would have made me possibly upset at my coworker today. What if I had fallen into the victim energy? And then I get to work and somebody has made a mess at work, and then I yell at them. And then they get bent out of shape, and then they sabotage my company somehow because I've treated them unfairly. And then they go and go to another company and then come combat me and fight me, all because I just took a low vibration course. Or worse, I get so into this victim mindset and I'm so distraught about it that my children come home and I yell at them, and then they feel terrible. And then they go to school and they make mistakes, and then their teacher yells at them, and then they go into a spiral. Like, our energy is what creates our life. So protecting our high vibration, happy energy is what makes our beautiful life.
That is a lovely closing message, Matt. One last message for people currently going through pain, not even having the energy or the capacity to move into happiness. What message would you give to those people?
The first piece is if there's a sincerity to want to feel better, if there is a sincerity and intention to say, I want out of this suffering, if that is there, people can help you. For me, I've hired coaches, psychologists, mentors, gurus, monks. I've taken courses and weekend retreats and read hundreds of books. There are so many people just saying, when the student is ready, the teacher is here. If you don't know how to get yourself out of the despair, but you want out, that moment, all of the teachers that you need will appear. I'm one of those teachers. Reno, you're one of those teachers. You can continue to tune into this podcast that we're on today, and you will continue to feel better. You could order my book, Good Mood Revolution. It teaches how to get out of those 8 moods. And for the person that really wants to go one-on-one and go deep into the psychology of how to get out of this, they can reach out to me on my website at mattoneil.com, and I can help them out.
And we'll post those links in the show notes below. Matt, I really want to acknowledge you for your great work. I think this is work that the world really needs: more happiness, more joy, more kindness, more tools to move out of pain and despair.
Well, I want to acknowledge you for the same, my friend. We are kindred spirits, and I'm so happy to know you.